Just give me 2 minutes. My machine is acting up.
Okay. Okay, it's okay. Nancy, could you please introduce yourself while the guest sets up? Or Tony, if one of you is there.
Okay, hi Maria. Sorry, I'm having issues from my end. So I'm Nancy Moretti, and I lead the campus program for She Hacks Kenya. So this is a session for the campus edition, and we do it together with Tony. I think Tony is on call. And yes, we'll lead the session together with Maria. So for today's session, we have David, and David Wambia is he's one of the campus ambassadors over at your end. Please, if you're not talking, just kindly mute your mic. So yes, welcome all of you once again to this session. Like Maria said, it's a holiday, so thank you so much for making the time. And yes, thank you.
Hello guys, my name is Tony Gidra, and we lead the campus sessions together with Nancy, and I think she has included.
Hi Tony, you're inaudible.
Hello Maria, what about now?
Yes, you're a bit better right now.
Okay, let me just increase the mic.
Okay.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I'm Tony, and we lead the campus sessions together with Nancy, and I think she has introduced the much part of it. We have the campus sessions on Tuesday, and we have the community sessions on Thursday. So you can also check out our Twitter page for the Thursday session. For this campus program, we focus more on campus, and maybe those people just like graduated and maybe trying to get into the security field. And so if you have maybe a good experience in any areas of the cybersecurity field, you can just reach out and we can arrange a session for you, whether you are a student still or you just graduated, or maybe you're just somebody with interest in cybersecurity, not a mass that will be in a specific institution. So you can just reach out to either of the She Hacks members, and we'll arrange a session for you. We also have a Telegram channel. That's where we like post any updates, and you also have WhatsApp group, so you can feel free to join in. And David, maybe if you are ready.
Okay, thank you.
Great.
Apologies for delaying. my machine started acting up, but rebooted it, and it should be fine now.
Thank you.
Just a second.
If you don't mind, would you like to tell us a bit about yourself while you're setting up?
Completed my exams about a month ago, and I'm awaiting graduation later this year. I'm a huge cybersecurity enthusiast, and it feels nice to be here today. So today I'm going to walk us through Linux privilege escalation, mostly the basic bits of it. And I hope that from those basics, if anyone grasps anything, which I hope all of us are, I hope that can be used as a foundation, which we can learn more advanced or more technical methods. A second, let me share my screen. No, it is not an audio only PGL. Could someone confirm whether they can?
Yes, we can see your screen. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, let's go to the presentation here. Yeah, so that is what we are going to talk about, Linux privilege escalation. So Linux privilege escalation as the, oh yeah, I hope you can all see the presentation, the slide.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Linux privilege escalation refers to the act of getting elevated permissions or privileges other than that of the user that you currently are on a Linux machine. So privilege escalation here could either be horizontal or vertical. Horizontal privilege escalation is where we as the attacker remain on the same general privilege level access as a higher privileged user or privileges other than that of the user that you
could you mute the YouTube live stream in the background?
Machine. Is there? There's none. I don't have. I don't have a concurring one.
Well,
I'm just using.
I don't think it's YouTube. Maybe if you're using another device, you can mute on the other one.
I'm using. It's muted.
Okay, you can carry on. Thank you. So sorry for that.
Is there still an echo?
No.
Okay, thank you. Where was I? I was on horizontal and vertical privilege escalation. Okay, let me just use this. So horizontal. Sorry about that. Yeah, there we are. So horizontal privilege escalation is where the attacker remains on the same general privilege level, on the same general level as the user. So they may be in the same group. So the attacker accesses the same privileges as another privileged user that is on the same group. And the vertical privilege escalation is where we access the functionality and access data of a higher privileged level of a higher privileged level user. That could be a system administrator. An example that is a typical example. So for the machine that I'm going to demonstrate with, it will majorly be a vertical privilege escalation, but that shouldn't be a problem because the same concept can be applied to a horizontal privilege escalation. activity. If you have any questions along the presentation, you can note them down and you'll ask them after the session. Okay, but if it's burning, you can just unmute, and I'll try as much as best as I can to respond to you. Okay, so let me start this machine. Let's see if okay, we have access. Okay, let's continue. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's jump right into it. So there are many approaches that an attacker can use to elevate their privileges. The ones that I'm going to cover today include exploiting weak permissions, no password directive, cron jobs, exploiting SUID binaries, passwords and keys, and finally, privilege elevation scripts. So all these methods are based on assumptions that we already have a shell. So as for me, I already have a shell over here. So we assume that you already have a shell from whatever vector that you got the shell. And this machine is a vulnerable Linux machine that is attached to a TryHackMe room, if you're familiar with the platform. So now that the credits are in order, let's continue. So the first method that we are going to look at is exploiting permissions, is exploiting weak file permissions. Yes. Oh, and something important to note is that the first command you ought to run before trying any of these exploits that I'm going to go through today is the ID command. If I can quickly show you the ID command. So let me zoom into it. I hope that is visible enough. Yeah, so at least for me, that's what I use, but preferences might differ with the person, but to each their own, I guess. So we run the ID command to print out the specific user and group information for the current user that we are running as. For example, here we have we are told that we are running as the user, literally user, and the numerical user ID, the numerical group ID, and the groups that the user is part of. So the reason for running this command is majorly to know the security context of the user, so that we have an understanding of the user that we as the attacker are running as. So we don't go in blind trying to exploit the machine. That would make us no different from a SCID, because we might find out that we have been root all along, but since we don't understand the user that we are, we just throw exploits and commands at the machine that would not be okay. Okay, so not to digress any further, let's continue with the weak file permissions. So the first element of the weak file permissions that you're going to look at is world readable sensitive files. So being able to read sensitive files on the Linux file system, like the shadow file and the password file, that as a random user without root privileges, and this can lead to access to the higher privileged user's password hash. So if you're able to access the file like the shadow file is a sensitive file that contains user account information, mostly contains the password hashes of the users on on the system of the users in the system, and it is contained in the etc directory, in this directory over here. This is where the shadow file is contained. About that. Yes, so the shadow file being readable is a problem, since you can extract the user's password hash from the file, and if it's crackable, the attacker can switch user to that user with higher privilege permissions than the user that he was before. So to demonstrate, we first confirm whether the shadow file is world readable by long listing the file. To long list, you use the command ls and then tag l and then the file. The file is shadow. Sorry, it's called shadow. Yes. So a little bit on permissions, because we are going to use this a lot today. So when you're confirming permissions, there are 3 sections here. In three sections in triplets. So this is the first section, the RW and the hyphen. The second section is the R and the 2 hyphens, and the third section is RW and that single hyphen over there. So that hyphen does not show permissions. It's just a placeholder for permission that does not exist. So if that file was complete, if all the permissions here were complete, it would look like this. And it would look a little bit like this. If you can focus on the slide where the pointer is. So the 3 sections show the permissions that the owner of the file has. So if all the 3 elements are there, R, W, and X, it would mean that the owner has read, write, and execute permissions over the file. And the group, the second section is the group. So if all the 3 elements are there, it would mean that users in the same group as the owner would have read, write, and execute permissions. And now this is the section that we're focusing on. That is the final triplet, the others or world. So if we have any sort of permissions in the third triplet, that means that the low privileged attacker has those permissions over that file. So in this file over here, the third triplet here, we have R and W, but we don't have X. So it means we have read and write permissions because we are world, we are others. We have read and write permissions, but we do not have execute permissions. So if we are able to read this file, we can extract the password hash of a higher privileged user. So let's read that file. Nano shadow, and each line contains information about root, and the password hash is the characters between the first colon and the second colon, the next colon. So the password hash is from here to here. So we extract that by just copying it. We've copied it. So if the password that was used here has low security, that means that it is a very common password, and it is contained against the whitelist that I'll use. We should get the password of root. So now on our attacking on our we can let's call it root hash. Let's paste it over there and save it. And after you've gotten the hash, you can, because you're going to crack it using hashcat, we need to know the mode that we will run. We will run as the mode that we will run in. So we use this website over here, the hashcat website that contains a list of password hashes and their modes. And this mode is what we'll use in the command line to crack it. Okay, so we are going to, we look at the hash. Sorry, got lost. We look at the hash and note the first 3 characters, and then look for something that looks like it in this website over here. So we can control find, and the first element was $, and the $sign, the next one was 6, and the third one was $sign. We can see here that the hash, it was the root, the hash, the password hash of the root password was encrypted in SHA-512 crypt, and the mode is 1800. So the next thing that we do is crack it using hashcat. So we use the command. Let me expand this a bit. Command hash the hashcat. Sorry, hashcat, and then the mode that we're going to use is 1800, and the file is root hash. And the word list that we are going to use is rocq.txt word list. Sorry, word list is rocq. Sorry about this. And stop. So because I had already run this, the password, the cracked password was already saved. So I can just run it with the show option, and it shows us that the password was the readable password, human readable password was password 123. Let's copy it, and if we try to switch user to root and log in with that password, we are root. If we type in who am I, we are root, and also the hash sign just tells us that we are root. Let's exit this and go to the next. Let's go to the next section of our presentation. So the next yeah, so that was all about world readable sensitive files. The next one is world writable sensitive files. So it will follow the same, almost the same pattern as the one that we have just done. So if the first sensitive file that we're going to look at is the shadow file. So if the shadow file is world writable by us, we can substitute the password hash with a custom hash, and then we can log in as the user with a cracked custom hash. So let's demonstrate this. Let's first list permissions, very important. See what we have: read and write permission. So we have write permission. That means that we can edit the hash. That means that we can edit the sorry, I got unmuted there for a second. So we see that we have write permission. That means that we can edit, we can modify the hash that is in the shadow file. So to edit it, if the hash was uncrackable, so let's say the user had a secure password, for example, he had a long password with all kinds of characters, and we cannot crack it using hashcat or any other tool like John the Ripper or an online tool like CrackStation. Yes, so we can create our own hash using the make password utility, not on our attacking machine. We can use the make password. You create a hash using the make password utility, and then the hash type that we're going to use is SHA-512. The same hash, the same encryption that was on the original one. We found it to be SHA-512 crypt, so we use the same one, the same format. And then the password, our desired password. Let's say our password is pass123, and if you click enter, it should give us a password hash, a SHA-512 encrypted password. So the clear text password is, the human readable password is pass123. So let's go back to our machine and change the contents of the shadow file. So we delete from here, from the first column to the second, to the next column over there, and then we paste our new hash and then save the file. So now if we switch user to root and enter password, our password was pass123. Let me copy it and enter that password. That gives us root. So that is how you can exploit a world writable permission misconfiguration. So let's exit of this. The final section of the weak permissions that I'm going to cover for this presentation, there are obviously more out there, is a world writable password file. So the password file is a similar file to the shadow file. It also contains user account information. So here we can also edit the contents of the password file. First, check permissions, and we have read and write permissions. So if we have write permissions, that means that we can modify the contents. So let's, in a similar way to how we modify the contents of the shadow file, we create a password. We create our own password hash. Open SSL, and then password. We use OpenSSL instead of make password here. Open SSL password, and then the string. So you pass 1, 2, 3, 4. Then if we copy this password hash and edit the password file. Now the password file does not have the password hash of the user that we want to exploit. It has an X in the place of the in place of the password hash. It used to have the password hash in all the systems, but I think that was changed when the shadow file was introduced. So we replace the X with the shadow file with the password hash. Sorry, with the password hash. Save the file, and if we switch user to root and enter the password, enter this password. Okay, switch root, switch user to root, pass 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, and that should give us root. I think I had copied, or I was using the password hash as the clear text pass instead of this one. Yeah, so that is how you exploit a readable password file. Let's exit out of the root shell, and that is how you exploit weak permissions. And there's a part that I skipped about a readable password and shadow file. So I'm just going to explain this. I'm not going to demonstrate So if you have both readable and both the shadow file and the password file are readable, if you have such an instance, you can combine both. You can combine both files with the shadow command, with the unshadow command, and then crack it using John the Ripper, and you will get the password hash. Yes, I just thought to state that would be important. So the next method that you're going to look at is the no password directive. So if this is the ability to run programs as an elevated user without needing the higher privileged user's password. So if we find out which commands that we can run without needing the elevated user's password, we can counter check with GTFO bins, this website over here. You can counter check with this website, GTFO bins, which has a list of Unix binaries that can be used to bypass local security restrictions. So there, if you find the programs that you can run without needing the password, those programs are not particularly vulnerable, but you just exploit that ability to be able to run as root. So to demonstrate, to find out which, let's switch back to our directory. To find out which programs we can run without needing the password, you use the sudo -l command. And these are the commands that we can run without needing the password. So in the brackets is the user that we can run. The user permission that can be run without needing the password. So we can run find with root privileges without needing the password, hence no password over here. So it's as simple as noting a command. Let's not find. Let's take note of find over here. Go to GTFO bins, in the search bar, search for find, and then click on the sudo button and copy this command. So if the binary is allowed to run as super user by sudo, if this find binary is allowed to run as super user, it does not drop the elevated privileges and may be used to access the file system. So this command should give us root. So it is find command in that directory, and then the command that is being run is to acquire a shell, and then the binary command is stopped. So we copy it and then paste it in our machine, and we are root. As simple as that. You can try that with any of these commands, and that should give us root. So that was all about the no password directory. The directive, sorry, the no password directive. The next method that we're going to of Linux privilege escalation that we're going to look at is exploiting cron jobs. So cron jobs are time-based jobs or tasks that are scheduled to run periodically at set time intervals, and the configuration for this file is found in the etc folder. In the cron tab folder, the cron tab folder within the etc folder. So this is the configuration, and these are the commands that are going to be run. This is the command that is going to be run Hourly is a command that's going to be run daily, weekly, monthly, and these ones are going to be run each minute. Both of these, the asterisks over here, give it away. So with this content file, within this content file, we're going to exploit two things. The first one is weak permissions, same as the weak permissions that we've gone through. So if we look if there's a world writable script that is going to be run as a user, well, of a higher privilege when the time that is it's supposed to run reaches. So if a script is in the cron folder and it is executed by, it's supposed to be executed by root or a user of higher privileges, and it is well writable, we can exploit that by modifying the content of the script to escalate our privileges. So to demonstrate, we already checked the contents of the cron tab file. Yeah, so we look for scripts that are scheduled to run. So let's take this one, for example, that's supposed to run each minute. Its path has not been specified here, so let's find out where it is. And it is in the user usr directory local bin. Okay, so we check permissions as has been the norm throughout this presentation, and we have read and write permissions. So if we have write permissions, that means that we can edit the file. So let's look at, well, let's see what. So it is just a command. The script that is to be run each minute is the output of the date command is being redirected to the temp folder in a useless directory, in a directory named useless. So let's edit this. So let's change this so that it will be able to give us a reverse shell. And since it is being run as root, it is being run by root, as we can see over here. It is being run by root, so we can, if the reverse shell that we'll get will have root, the user will be root, of course. So this is how you start a bash script, bash script, and if this is run as root, it will give us a root shell. So we run it as a root, but we redirect it to a remote machine. The remote machine will have the remote machine has the IP of 10.8.152.152.233. Yes, 10.8.152.233, and it will be listening on port 4444. Okay, so let's first listen before saving this. Let's listen on our attacking machine using that cat. So let's save this. And after, in less than a minute, we should have, I think I closed the tab by mistake. So let's, oh, and there we already have a shell. Let me zoom in. We have a root shell over here. This is not the vulnerable host. This is our attacking machine. So we are root. So the the cron job has already executed, and it has given us a reverse shell over here with root privileges. So now what if let's exit. What if the script in the cron tab file is not all writable? We cannot modify it. For our case it is, but let's assume that it isn't. So if it isn't, that we can exploit the path environment variable over here. So the path environment variable is just a security control that specifies the directory paths to look in when commands are executed. So if you execute a command and then a file afterwards without specifying the absolute path, the absolute path is the location of the path of the directory from the top of the file system to its exact location. So if you don't specify it, it will go, the command will look for, the system will look for the file in each directory in the system. So we can exploit this if if the script in the cron tab file does not specify the exact location, does not give the absolute path of the script. So if we look at our cron tab file, there's an override.sh here. If you remember, we had to locate it because it didn't have its absolute file, its absolute path. Sorry about that. Yes, so we can exploit this if one of the directories that is in this path variable, and then why the method is called path environment variable exploitation. If a directory that is in this path is if one of the directories that is over here, we have write permissions of it, that means that we can successfully exploit this method. So let's copy this directory and see the type of permissions that we have over it. Sorry. So in fact, we even own the directory. We own the directory home user, and we have read, write, and execute permissions over any subdirectory after the user directory. So if we have write permissions over it, we just create a copy of the script that is in the cron tab file. So let's nano overwrite.sh, because when the time reaches, it will look for a file named overwrite.sh and not in its absolute path. So hence that is how we are able to exploit this. So let's create a bash script that should give us shell, that should give us a root shell. So shebang bin bash. And then what we are going to do is copy the contents of the bash command, the bash binary, into the temporary folder, the temp folder. Let's call our new bash binary, let's call it root bash. And this root bash is what we'll execute with the privileged flag to get root. So after copying it, we are going to make it executable. So we change mode +X and give it special permissions S, and that we give this file the new bash binary, root bash, that is contained in the TMP folder. Yes, simple as that. So we save this file and we make it executable. Change mode plus X. Overwrite. Yeah, so after a minute elapses, the overwrite.sh script is supposed to be executed. Now, the system will look for, and the script will be looked for in the whole system. So if it finds this overwrite.sh in our home user directory, it will execute it, and after that we are going to run the new bash binary with the privileged flag, and that should give us root. So we can check the tmp folder if oh, it has already been created. The root bash binary has been created, and the red highlights show that we can run it as root. So if we change our directory to the tmp folder and run root bash with the p option, privileged option, that should give us root. It is that simple. So that is how we can exploit the path environment variable in the cron tab file. So let's exit and let's move on to the next method, which is SUID binary exploitation. So SUID binary exploitation involves a binary with its SUID permission set, so that any file that is executed by the program will do so with the privileges of that user temporarily, no matter the user running the program. So for instance, yeah, we have a program that has the SUID bit set to that of root. So if that command is run, if that binary is run, no matter the user that is running it, the permissions that user would have after running that command would be temporarily elevated. So it will be temporarily that of root. Yeah, so this SUID bits, this SUID binary SUID bits are set so that the system allows user with low privileges to execute commands that affect them. So let's say the user wants to change their password, and they do not have the root they do not have the root password. So to change their password using the password command, they would not.
Hello, I'm coming back.
Someone, could you please mute your mic? Okay, so if this user wants to change their password, and to change the password, you will need root permissions, but not necessarily the root password. So they would run the password command, and temporarily they would have root permissions because only root is able to change password. So they would have root privileges to change their password without needing the root password. So in a shady way, that is how to explain the SUID bits. So when you're looking for files with their SUID bit set or binaries, we look for files with the special permissions. So now when special permissions are given to each user, that's when it now becomes SUID bits for the user, where for the owner, sorry, SGID bits for the group, and sticky bits for others. So we can search for these files numerically. For SUID bits, the permissions would be 4000. For SGID bits, the permissions would be 2000, and for sticky bits, the permissions would be 100. I recommend reading an article on the same, I will share the link after the presentation, a link after the presentation that explains this in detail. I cannot explain this in detail right now because of time. So if you want to look for a file that has the SUID bit set, so we are going to find it from the top of the file system, and the item that you're looking for the type of item that you're looking for are SUID, and then we redirect the second descriptor to the FNAR. Yes, so if we press enter, that should give us a list of files that have the SUID bits set. Now all these files, we cannot exploit the SUID bit setting of all these files. We have to look for a file that does not look like it should be here. So as I said, for the password, you would need root privileges. For sudo, you would need root privileges. For most of this, to mount, you would need root privileges. But there's one that stands out over here, exim. So exim is a mail transfer agent, and normally it should not have it should not have root permissions. So assuming we do not know anything about this exim, we search for it in Google, just exim. I already searched for it over here with that the exact version, and there's a local exploit in exploitdb. It also has its own CVE. Yeah, so there's a CVE for it on exploit database. Exploit database is a database that contains vulnerabilities. Yeah, so we skim through this script. Yes, you skim through the script to see if there is anything that will be setting. So this script is what we will use to get higher privilege, a root shell. So this just prints out this on the terminal. And as we can see here, there's nothing that we are setting. A temporary a file, a Perl module is created on the temp folder, and these Perl packages are inputted into this file, into root Perl module. This is to get a shell. This is to identify the location of the Perl module. Yes, so as there's nothing that we are setting here, we are going to set here. We as long as running this script should give us shell. It's that simple. So it's somewhere here. That script, you can upload it to the vulnerable host, or to the machine that you're attacking using a Python server or a secure copy. So it's a tools SUID exim, and then so this is just running the script. So I just pressed enter, and we already got root. Who am I? I am root. Okay, that is how you exploit SUID binaries. And another thing, you can also use the symbolical method to search for SUID files with the SUID binaries bit set. So you just find from the top of the system, the type is file. So type F, and then the permissions, instead of the number 4000, you are looking for a file whose users permission are special. The user permissions have been set exact to special, and then you just redirect the second descriptor to dev null. And this should work in the same way as the numerical method. So for SGID, for the numerical method, you would use 2000 over here instead of 4000, and for sticky bits you would use 1000. And for the symbolical method, you would use U is equals to G instead of S, and for the sticky bits you would use U is equals to T or O, T or O, one of them, I'm not sure. Yes, so let's move on swiftly to passwords and keys. The next, I think it was passwords and keys. Yes, it is passwords and keys. That is the history files and SSH keys. So the terminal usually records the user input onto the terminal or onto it. So if a user mistakenly inputs the password on the command line, instead of a password prompt, it will be stored. And if we extract, if the user did that mistake, we can extract the password. So it is as simple as you cut the contents of any history file in the home directory. Not in the home directory. Yes, in the home directory. So from the home directory, you look for any file that dot history dot something history dot all history, because the history file will be something like dot bash history or dot bash underscore history. So dot the constant here is history. So that ends the wildcard. So here we can see, if you look at this, you can see that the user tried to log into the MySQL service and input the password by mistake. So this is and tried to log in as the user root and the password 123. Now this would work if you tried to switch user to root. That would work, but remember we had changed the credentials by altering the contents of the shadow and password file. So this would not work right now. But that is how you look, or you can just type history in the command line, and if it's not long, if the list is not long, you can find the password input onto the command line instead of a password prompt. Yes, so the next one was SSH keys. So here we are going to find the SSH keys in the home directory of the higher privileged user. So as we know, if we do not have the password to a user's account, we can log in with the private SSH key if we have that. Most times, a lot of times, these SSH keys are stored in the home directory of a user. Yes, so in our case, we want to get root. So we are going to look for hidden files in the root directory. And since the SSH key is hidden in the directory, so we have to list long list, of course, and then with the option A to print out all contents. So we are listing all we are long listing all contents hidden or unhidden in the root directory, hence the /. So if we look through this output, there's a .ssh directory. If we tried to long list, we would not find it. We would not find it. But if we long list with the A option, we find it since it's hidden. It was hidden, right? Yeah. So we also check the permissions. That is something very key. Check the last triplet, and we have read permissions over the file, over the directory. This is a directory. Yes, starts with a D. So it's a directory. So let's change directory into .ssh. Let's long list the contents. And the only content here is this file called root key, and we have read permissions. Now this root key is the SSH key of the root user. So if I try reading it, I should be, because I have read permissions. I do not have write or execute permissions, but I have read permissions. So let's read it and extract the contents. So this is the private key. Zoom out so I can copy the contents. And then go back to our attacking machine. In that folder, we create a file called root key. Paste the contents, paste the private key, save it, give it the necessary permissions. Root key, not root hash. I named it root key instead of root key, but it's okay. Okay, so if we try logging in with that key via SSH, so root key, so key,
is it root key or root key?
Okay. It is root key over in the machine, but over here it is root key. I mistyped, but that isn't an issue. That isn't a problem. Okay.
Yeah, carry on.
Am I okay? Thank you. If we check the contents of root key, it's just that private key. The name does not affect anything. So if we try to log in, SSH tag I root key, and then
Hey,
you're trying to log in as root. Yes. Someone talking. Okay, let's carry on. You're trying to log in as root, and the IP is this is the IP. And just like that, we have root. So that is how you extract the SSH key. And it is important to note that it will not always be as easy as this. So you might find that the SSH directory is not readable to you, the random user. But this, if it were readable, this is how you extract it. So let's exit the root shell.
So Devi.
Yes.
So the root key is the file name.
Root key is just the file name. it does not affect anything. I copied this key that was in the machine, in the vulnerable host, and then pasted it. But during typing, I skipped T. That will not affect anything, as long as the private key is as it was in the vulnerable machine. That should work. Is it okay?
Yes, thanks for the clarification.
Okay, thank you. So the final part of my presentation today will be privilege escalation scripts. Yes, so we can run a script against the against the machine, so that we we can sorry about that. We can run a script against the machine that will do the work for us. So all the methods that I've gone through, an automation script does that for us. So instead of finding binaries that have STID bits, for example, the manual way, using the find command, we use a privilege escalation script. But it is important to understand how these privilege escalation scripts work before just trying them against the system. So some scripts, examples of these scripts are linpiece, linenum, LSC, and Linux exploit suggester. These are not the only scripts. There are others out there. There are others out there. And these scripts, like linenum, and do a good job of enumerating the system for us. So if there's anything that we might have skipped or forgotten about, this reminds yeah, these scripts will remind us. So I do not see I do not see the importance of running any of these scripts, because all of them, not even most of them, all of them are quite self-explanatory. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. So thank you for showing up, and I hope that we've got something from this. Okay. Questions are welcome. And you can also find me on these pages, on Twitter, LinkedIn, Medium. So any questions?
David. Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
It's gone like 20 minutes over time.
Oh, sorry about that. Sorry, I got carried away for a bit.
It's okay. From the comments, people seem to have loved your presentation. I don't think there are questions for now, but if there are, is it possible for them to contact you on your social media platforms?
Yeah, no problem. If you have any questions, you can ask. You can contact me on Twitter.
Okay, that would be really nice. Thank you. So for now, we will end this session, and I'd like to thank you so much. The presentation was very interesting and very insightful, very detailed. I actually really enjoyed it. And thank you everyone for making the time on this holiday. I think I'm going to go ahead and say good night. If Nancy and Tony have anything to say, I'm leaving the floor to them. And if they don't speak in the next 2 minutes, then I will be ending the session. Good night.
Well, Maria, I don't think I have much to say. Just to thank everyone who made the time to show up today. And also, maybe you'd allow me to highlight someone. Jackie, thank you so much.
Thank you. It's been very beautiful and insightful. Thank you.
to join. I know maybe if you're in a position to do something, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Thank you. It's been a great session. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for making the time. Always a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
So Tony. Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you, and thanks so much, Jackie. Actually, hadn't noticed that you are in the session. So nice. So, okay, I had a couple of questions in the inbox. Actually, not really related to this topic, but a guy was asking me how to get started with Linux system and such. Okay, maybe I can just answer to anybody who else maybe had that question in mind. Okay, just get any simple Linux distribution that you feel you can. Okay, maybe I can advise on, if you want to get into maybe security field direct, just try Kali or Parrot. Or if you want a development distribution, you can try Ubuntu, Debian, Arch Linux, but you can start with Ubuntu. Thanks so much, David. I love the session. It was great. And yeah, thanks so much, everyone, for attending. I think that's all from my side. Back to you, Nancy.
Okay, I think you've said it all. Maybe I'll say good night to everyone. And also, Tony, like Tony shared, we have a Telegram group for the She Hacks, the campus team. Basically, if you're a student, you don't have, maybe you're not an ambassador for She Hacks, but you can join the Telegram group. And also for this, if you're here and you're a student, please reach out to us or to me or Tony, and you can take up a session. We can host you like we've hosted David today and show your skills. And yes, please feel free to reach out to us. Thank you and good night, everyone.